Okay, I have really struggled this summer with keeping my kitchen clean. It just gets away from me and everybody's cooking and I getting angsty like, why aren't you helping me in the kitchen? And why are there dirty dishes in the sink when the dishwasher is empty and ready for dirty dishes, right? And I just find like, what a waste of energy. So I'm just trying to let all that go and just like myself check in with the kitchen a few times a day, fall in love with cooking again. And one of the keys to fall in love with cooking is my garden. So I'm going to start you in the garden. Even if you don't have the garden, going to farmer's market, getting your favorite produce, or a grocery store that has really fresh produce can just be very soul filling. So let's go see what's in the garden today. And then we're going to do some cooking. And I'm trying very hard to fall in love with cooking again. You know, there's all these jokes online about spending $200 to get a tomato or $100 to get a tomato. But I have to say the lettuce has turned out to be, I definitely have gotten my money's worth out of this lettuce. It's extremely prolific. So it does wilt. Definitely have to keep it hydrated. I'm not quite sure what happens when it gets too tall or when it flowers at the top. I need to do some more research, but it's so fun to pick my lettuce, and I love salads in the summer. I also have a lot of cherry tomatoes we're about to pick, so that's exciting. But especially when it lays down like this, I know I need to get out here and get it. And I found it lasts a long time in the fridge if I store it in between damp, cold paper, obviously they'd be cold there in the fridge, but cold paper towels. Let's see, did I miss anything? This guy over here. I'm telling you, gardening is so addictive. Look at all that. The beauty of being such a homebody is I can see something out my window, my office window wilting, and even if it's not the watering time of the day, I can come out and just give it a drink. So I like that. Here with this cherry tomato plant. You know, some things you feel like I'm not getting my money's worth, and then others, they just keep on giving. And these are just these perfect little tomatoes. This guy is small. I guess I'll leave him, make sure he's not going to get bigger, but he looks pretty ripe to get any bigger. I can't wait to put these in a salad. I love it. Oh, look at that sweet little baby. Can you see that sweet baby? Goodness. Thank you, Lord, for my tomatoes. I love summer salad. I've been neglecting the resource that is lavender leaves. So I'm going to clip a couple of these sprigs of leaves because they have a huge scent to them. This is English lavender. Rachel is making a satchel. Plus, I read if you rub the leaves on a bug bite, it's supposed to help with the itching. Here I am walking into my kitchen, realizing that there are dishes in the sink and around the sink from people cooking, and they couldn't have put them in the dishwasher unless they had been willing to empty the dishwasher. So here I have a choice. I can get angsty or I can take care of the thing. And so I am choosing to take care of the thing. One of the things I do if I'm tired or if I really don't want to do a job, and I'm going to keep saying it because I know not everybody sees every video, is I slow it down. I know that there's a lot of set a timer and see how quick you can do it. If that motivates you, go for it. But for a lot of us, we're kind of over that. And we don't want to rush and we don't want to end up in an exhausted heap from running a race, right? So what helps me these days is to slow down. It used to help me to time the task, not so I would hurry up, but so that the next time I do the task, whatever it is, I would know this only takes you 5 minutes, just do it. But, you know, at my age, it's not something I need anymore. I more need to slow down, Think about what I'm doing, lean into it, enjoy it. Think about why I'm blessed to do it. I'm blessed to do it, honestly, because I love a clean kitchen. It makes me feel so good to walk into a clean kitchen. And part of that is I don't store a lot in any of the rooms of our house. So if I walk into the living room and it's a mess, it's going to take me all of 5 minutes to fold the blankets, put the pillows up. I don't have kids with toys anymore. We do have a game console that honestly no one uses, and I should probably get rid of it. But even when we were using it, it was the kind that had like digital games. It wasn't games that you purchase the physical copy. We don't have DVDs. Well, I have some DVDs that there are some that people don't want to get rid of, but they are in a box labeled DVD in my basement. Y'all know how I am. So when you walk down to the basement stairs, to the right of the stairs, on that shelf are things that people would want to grab. That's where I've put them, so I can just say games, DVDs, craft supplies, and even my decor down the stairs to the right. And if you need storm supplies, down the stairs to the left. So I've done those things so that I don't have to be storing them in rooms, so that is super, super quick to tidy up the rooms. But the kitchen is a whole different animal because of the cooking. And I've said it before, my family loves to cook. They're all good at it. I am happy about that, but it does mean that our kitchen gets messy very, very quickly. My husband works from home. I work from home. And there's always people home. The girls are working retail, so they're, have hours where sometimes they're home a lot, sometimes they're not home a lot, sometimes they're rushing. Either way, whatever causes it, here it is. So if I'm really having a hard time, especially if I'm tired, not only does it help me to slow down, but it does also help me to put something in my ears, whether that's a podcast or a video or music, whatever I'm in the mood for. It does really help me to listen to something. This year I've gotten myself some sundresses. This particular sundress that I'm wearing, I bought it at Target and it was $30, but I noticed it's $25 online, which is very interesting that it would be cheaper online than it is to get it in the store. So they had this black one with lemons on it, and then they have a red one with polka dots. And so I actually ordered the red one with polka dots online because I was looking to see what else they had. But it is actually helping me to wear the sundresses. It's helping me to kind of slow down and get into, don't take this weird, but I don't know, to get into a more feminine mindset, which I actually really enjoy. I don't know why I said don't take this weird, but sometimes when you would actually admit to enjoy being feminine, it says something to people politically that you're not trying to say. I'm just saying that it slows me down. It just reminds me, having a dress on, you think twice about how you're moving your body and how you're bending, and I don't know, and feeling pretty and all of the things. It is just helping me to have a more positive mindset. I got into the habit in the wintertime of throwing on jeans and a sweatshirt. Nothing wrong with that. I enjoyed it. It felt so cozy. I was cold all the time, and it just really did help me. And then by the end of winter, though, I was thinking, I want to feel pretty. Not that can't feel pretty in a sweatshirt, but do you know what I mean? I just wanted to feel a little bit more dressed up and put together. And that was kind of what inspired me. I had a sundress I bought at Kohl's. It has short sleeves, and I do wear that a lot. And I thought I should get some more. And also, I have been really trying to practice self-acceptance. And so letting my arms be bare is another just step in that direction of accepting myself. You want to hide your upper arms, especially when you've lost 100 pounds. But I am slowly learning, oh my goodness, nobody cares the size of my upper arms. Like, what does that say about me as a person? Nothing. And others who've lost weight can recognize, oh, I bet she lost weight. I just feel like people are more aware than I realize. And it's just a way to accept myself. But wearing a dress makes me feel pretty. And it also helps me to just slow down and enjoy the moments. I don't know why. There's just something psychological about it. Let me know if you feel that way too. Now, normally I would have double timed this, section of my video. Of course, the speed clean is something that we're all used to watching, but I really wanted to keep it in real time because I wanted you to see how long it really takes to do this. If I move out of the camera shot, like to put a pan away because I hang pans in the doorway going down to my basement, then I'm going to clip that out. So it took 3 or 4 minutes longer than maybe at the most than what you're seeing here. But I really wanted to just show you this is real life. This is real speed. This is real Karen speed because I even do it to myself. I'm so used to filming and editing and seeing myself do it quickly that I'll find myself racing and I have to slow myself down. You know, you do that with editing software. You don't do that in real life or you end up as a heap on the ground. So, you know, it just helps, I think, sometimes to keep it in real time. So just put yourself in your mind in your own kitchen and let me know. I would love to know, you know, do you love to be in the kitchen? How do you feel about a messy kitchen? Are you the type that has to go to bed with a clean kitchen? I honestly am not, and I did go through maybe a short phase. I've done the whole fly lady thing. And actually, I should take that back. I do love to go to bed with a clean kitchen. And when my kids were younger and they were always home and they were taking care of the dishes after supper, and I wasn't doing any supper dishes, then I was going to bed with a clean kitchen. I had enough kids that one could set the table, one could clear the table, one could fill the dishwasher, one would wipe down counter, stove, and island, and one would sweep the floor, and there was a time when I had enough home that one would empty the trash. Oh, those were the glory days. Let me tell you what, when it comes to after supper time, I am not a night person, and I am not doing all that. And my husband's not a night person. So, and, you know, Rachel tends to be home, but she has digestive issues, so she really has to sit for a bit after she eats. So I'll oftentimes get up and do one of us, either my husband or I, will do the supper dishes in the morning. I mean, if I can get things soaking so that they're not hardened on the next day, I'm doing good. Now, there are exceptions to the rule. In fact, you know, you'll see that from time to time in my videos, maybe even later in this video. Spoiler alert, but for the most part, I am doing dishes in the morning or and in the afternoon, and then I'm leaving them because usually I run the dishwasher in the afternoon before supper and then I run it again after supper. One of the things that really does help me to stay in love with the kitchen and desire to cook is if things are stored loosely. If I get packed tight with food, I really have a hard time because I can't see what's in there, and then things are getting spoiled and they're, I'm ending up throwing away food, which I hate. Well, my daughter Rachel, she's 26. She does her own cooking and she's really good at it, but she's not been well lately. So she has bought some dates and pecans and was intending to make date bars. And so tonight I'm done with work. Nobody else is home. I think it's just Rachel, and I don't think anyone else is even here. I need to go check. I don't even know. I've been in my office editing. So I told her I would make her date bars. I'm excited to try these because I don't even like dates, but she promises me that they taste remarkably like brownies. So I thought it would be fun if I showed you this recipe because it is so darn easy, and it is my first time ever making it.
Okay, let's make some raw brownies from the Deliciously Ella cookbook. So I am weighing 5 ounces of pecans, which is about a cup and a half. So getting those all on my scale, and then I'm going to put them in my food processor. Pulse the pecans until they look like a crumbly mixture. Here is what mine looked like. Now I'm going to get the pits out of my dates and weigh the dates. I want there to be 7 ounces of medjool dates, which is, they say, about 20. So you have to pit them, and I am weighing them on the scale. Now you're going to hear me talk to Rachel about feeling like the mixture is too dry. One thing is it calls for 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, which is optional. We chose not to use maple syrup because Rachel thinks that it is plenty sweet from just the dates. But I did want to make sure to mention one thing that she said is if you think it is too dry, when you make it, it's a good idea to take those dates and soak them in hot water. The dates that we get, plus our climate, just lends more toward dryness. So if you soak and hydrate those dates in hot water, it'll give you a more gooey brownie. I'm adding the dates to my food processor, and then I'll also be adding 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder. They say raw cacao powder, which we don't have, so cocoa powder is just fine. Then you're going to pulse it with your food processor again until it is sticky, and this is where I did have some doubts.
Because of the quality of the dates and nuts that we have here, ours usually come out kind of crumbly.
Yep.
So what I usually do to combat that is that when you put it in the pan, because you're going to freeze it for an hour, it's going to come together, but you press it down really hard with your hands.
So you think this is good then?
Yeah, this is perfect.
Okay.
I mean, if you wanted to add moisture, you could add maybe like 1 or 2 more dates.
Okay. I did weigh the dates, so maybe I have less dates than you would have had.
Yeah, I feel like if it's moisture you're concerned about, 2 of these like really big juicy ones. Because, yeah, even if I weigh, it's not bad, but
I'm over here like a kindergartner.
okay. I haven't made this in a long time.
Yeah.
You realize that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you go ahead.
I thought it might help your tummy.
Yeah, that looks better. See how when I press it down,
yeah,
it kind of takes a form?
Yeah.
So that's the consistency you want.
Okay.
And then when you freeze it, that'll set it.
And I'm going to freeze it for an hour.
Yeah. Freeze it for an hour and then you store it in the fridge.
Right.
And I usually seal the top off with aluminum foil.
Okay.
But yeah, the dates are supposed to be the moisture, so if there's ever less moisture, you add dates.
Okay. Thank you.
So I set a timer so we would know when our hour is up. We're going to freeze it for an hour, and then you store it in the refrigerator all ready to eat. And this, honestly, is really, really good.
I was right. Those date bars, they taste just like brownies, and I hate dates, and I like these. So let me know if you're going to try them. I would love to know, and come back and tell me if you like them. New day, new afternoon. Today I spent my day driving teenagers around pretty much wherever they needed to go. Those days always kind of exhaust me. But I had these pork chops in the refrigerator I needed to use up. I bought them with my latest grocery order because they were $1.99 a pound. And my husband's not really picky with meat, but I could tell he wasn't overly excited about the pork chops. And I didn't really have a vision on how to make them. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to kind of play Chopped, you know, that show on Food Network where they have the basket of ingredients. And I'm just going to hunt the house, see what I have. Well, I had the pork chops, obviously. I had cannellini. Is that what they're called? Cannellini beans. They're like a white bean. They are a white bean, but they're kind of like northern white beans. And I remember I had got those for Rachel, and I asked her, what were you going to do with those beans? She's like, I have no idea. Then my husband had like a small container of petite diced tomatoes that he had used, some of it, but not all of it, put it in the fridge. That's usually the first thing to go to waste. And I thought I could make, what's it called? Oh, pork scallopini. Scallopini? I think that's what it's called because it has the pork, tomatoes. Usually you use fresh tomatoes, but I thought I'll use a little bit of both, and the beans. So let me show you that recipe because it is really good. And pork chops are not that expensive these days, so it's a great way to use a pork chop. You could also do any kind of boneless pork with it too. Honestly, I think it'd be good with chicken. So I'm trying to get more sale meat, but I really have to have a plan before I get it. So I don't always have to play Chopped, but it actually was really fun. And if you wanted this to be low carb, what I did was I made rice. I didn't have the rice. I had the meat with some of the sauce, without the beans, and without the rice. And we are going to side it with some broccoli. I like roasted broccoli. What do you like? So come on, let's go make supper now that I have figured out what I'm going to make. Also, before I forget, this is the cookbook, Meals That Heal, that I'm getting it out of by Carolyn Williams. I love this cookbook. It's falling apart. It's falling apart. This is the picture in, notice I can just pull it out, in the cookbook. Mine won't look like this because you see how little tomato? We like ours more tomatoey, which is why I add the petite diced tomatoes. Also, I notice how they have like little pieces of zest. I should have looked at this picture before. I've never actually made it like this, interestingly enough. So you can compare this picture to mine, to yours, if you try it. Also, mine is going to be gluten-free. It's gluten-free and dairy-free. Obviously not meat-free, though. Soy-free.
Before I get cooking, I always like to make sure that the dishes are caught up to date. And because I already showed you my actual speed, we are going to speed this up double time and add some music so that it's more enjoyable for you. I'm going to get into the actual pork scallopine recipe, but let me just mention, one of you wisely told me, actually more than one of you, that putting that rice cooker under the cabinet is why I'm having trouble with the paint on that cabinet. So I need to find a different place to put the rice cooker when I'm using it. We got these beautiful red onions from a farmer's market, and so I thought it would be perfect in this pork scallopine. It calls for 1/2 cup of onion, and I use whatever onion I like. But I will say that when it comes to onion, garlic, I always measure with my heart, so I wasn't too worried about having the correct measurement. I'm going to use the whole thing, and I'm not the least bit sorry about it. The recipe calls for 1/2 cup of chopped tomatoes. So, as you saw in the picture I showed you earlier, you know, they just were kind of putting the tomato across the top. So they probably put it in much later, like at the very end of making their sauce. Whereas we like ours a little bit juicier and more like a sauce. So I'm using the leftover petite diced tomatoes. It's probably a 1/2 can, and then I'm going to be cutting up this tomato as well. And some people like to take the seeds out of the tomatoes so that you don't have all that juice in there. I'm the opposite. I love all that juice, and so I do not do that ever. You could also use cherry tomatoes for this. That would be really good if you had some cherry tomatoes hanging on your vine. But this is a store-bought tomato with the leftover petite diced, and it was one of the ways that I could get that used up out of the refrigerator. It calls for 1 can of no salt cannellini beans, and I have also used white northern beans with great success. So any white bean really does work well. So I'm getting it drained and rinsed. Sometimes I don't rinse the bean because I want the extra flavor, but that also introduces extra starch too. I put down some avocado oil because I'm going to brown the pork chops on both sides. Now what they want you to do is to coat the pork chops with Dijon mustard, salt, and pepper. I'm going to add the mustard to my sauce. I have made this several times, and I've never successfully gotten the Dijon mustard to stay on the pork chop. I don't know why. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, if it's my pans or what it is. So I am doing 4 pork chops because there's 3 of us, and I wanted to have 1 serving left over for the next day. The recipe does call for 4 thin pork chops, so that of course was a bonus. At this point, I remembered that I was supposed to do a 1/2 tablespoon of oil and a 1/2 tablespoon of butter, which I completely forgot about, and I did the whole tablespoon and a half of oil that the recipe called for when I was going to use the other tablespoon for when I do the sauce, but I forgot. It was fine. No one will know. And I am using Earth Balance butter because it is dairy-free. I got myself a stool to sit on because it is the end of the day and I am tired, so that's a little hack for you, you know? Don't be afraid to sit down when you cook. The browning process takes about 4 minutes, but you do what you feel comfortable with, because in the end, you're going to be simmering it with the sauce. It's going to get cooked through. It's not going to get overcooked and dry because of the sauce. Now, I didn't add any additional avocado oil because I used a whole tablespoon and a half at the beginning. So now I am sauteing my onion, and I like to wait for the onion to get almost done before I add garlic. You're going to add 3 cloves of garlic to your onion and saute it until the onion is translucent and the garlic is cooked. It only takes a couple minutes for garlic to cook, and you don't want it to get overcooked or overbrowned because then it gets bitter. At this point, you would add a half cup of tomato, but I am adding all of the petite diced tomatoes that were left over so that we can get them used up, and then also the 1 tomato that I did chop up. Now it's 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. I didn't have Dijon mustard, so I used the regular yellow mustard that I had. And honestly, no one even noticed the difference. Now you're going to just stir it up because you want everything to simmer. It also calls for 1 teaspoon of minced fresh sage. I didn't have fresh sage, so I'm using dry sage. And then you can just add some pepper to taste. They use a half teaspoon of lemon zest. I just gave it a good squirt of lemon juice. We love lemon juice, so I'm never worried about having too much in a recipe. I'm adding the pork back in because I want the pork to be especially cooked through, but I want it all to simmer together. Once the sauce was heated up, I really wanted to have it on top of the pork as well, so I'm just kind of rearranging things, and then I'm going to add the beans, and then I want the beans on the bottom. So I just keep rearranging it the way I want it, but that works out well because then the pork is nice and coated with the sauce. You just want the sauce cooked through, you want it heated through really because everything is cooked, and you want your pork chops cooked through, and then you're ready to eat, and everybody puts their pork on top of the rice with the sauce on top, and it's just a really yummy dinner. Once it was simmering and it was almost done, and just, I have it on low, then I put my broccoli in because I didn't want to risk having the broccoli in too long. I like to cook the broccoli at 400 degrees for about 15 minutes. Here is my husband's plate. This was a well-received recipe. Everybody loved it.
That was a big hit with the family, and I did have 1 portion left over, which either Yvonne can eat when she gets home from work, or Rachel can eat it the next day because it's a great recipe for her. That's actually her cookbook. It was just yummy. So I hope this helps you, motivates you in your kitchen to fall in love with your kitchen, lean in, just get it clean. It's self-care. I promise it is self-care to get your kitchen clean. Find some recipes that you love. Find some recipes your family will love, which is also super satisfying when they're so happy that you made food for them. Even if you live alone, maybe you could bring it into work, bring it to a neighbor. Actually, we had our next door neighbor rents out his house. And there's somebody that rented out that I don't know personally, but knows people I know. And they were talking with a mutual friend, and they were saying, do you know Robin? And they were saying that they rented and were our next door neighbors. And they're like, you know him, he loves to cook. And I was asking about that. He goes, yeah, I think I did bring them over food one time. So, and he's been bringing his hot sauce in to the guys at work. He made a cake that was so good. It was a cinnamon cake. I might show it here. I don't know. It was so good. I was like, get that out of here. Don't ever make it again. It had like a pound of butter in it. But we had it that night, and I couldn't resist it. And I was like, I cannot have this in my house. It was a sheet cake. So he brought that into work. So he's been making some people happy at work. He goes in once a week. He didn't bring in anything this past Monday, but hopefully he'll be able to bring in some more things. So anyway, it was really great. And I'm starting to love my kitchen again. I'm starting to find my joy in cooking again. And so it's been really awesome because I haven't enjoyed cooking. I'm just going to be honest with you. And I'm just trying to rediscover it. And it helps me to save money too, because when I love cooking, I'll be more apt to cook from scratch. When I don't love cooking, I'm just looking for the shortest route if my husband doesn't want to work or doesn't want to cook. So anyway, remember, as always, God loves you. I love you too. And I can't wait to see you next time.